recording now.
All right. I'll go back to this then for our clean recording. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Clark, and I'm an assistant professor in the College of Education in the Teacher Education Division. And I serve as the curriculum lead for the new Center for Sustainability and the Environment at Dominguez Hills. And I'm co-facilitating this workshop today with Ellie Perry.
And again, my name is Ellie Perry. I'm the Sustainability Director for Cal State Dominguez Hills. I actually work under Facility Services, so I'm not faculty, but that's okay. And I direct both the Office of Sustainability, which is still under Facility Services, as well as the new Center for Sustainability and the Environment, which is an academic center, and it's an institutional level resource. So very excited to have our first official event on behalf of the center to hopefully support you all as faculty, those of you who are live with us today, and those of you who might be watching the recording, to really support you in your work in applying sustainability to any course that you might be working in. So looking forward to diving into the content.
Yes, thank you. And just briefly, we're going to go over today the resources that are available for all of us as faculty in terms of the new center that Ellie just mentioned. I'll broadly introduce the overlap between sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice goals, and then give some more concrete tools through the UN Sustainable Development Goals, of learning objectives for sustainability. And we'll end with an invitation for a self-assessment activity to look at your course syllabus or course syllabi. And we hope that everybody will leave with a understanding of at least one sustainable development goal that they do or can teach in their courses, and be able to articulate that goal to their students. You all might be at various starting points, so there'll be some invitations to do a little bit more than that, depending on where you're starting. All right, we did our introductions, and I will pass it to Ellie to give some introductions.
Right. So as context for, why are we having the conversation about sustainability as an institution? Kind of where are we as a university in terms of our interest in sustainability and doing this work? So for those of you, especially who are new to the campus, or maybe this is your first semester, or maybe you haven't heard much about it, sustainability is a core value of the institution here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. And we've made some amazing progression in terms of our sustainability efforts over the last 6 years or so that I've been here. For kind of my introduction, so if you don't know who I am, basically I was hired in August of 2017 as the campus's first ever sustainability staff person for anything, basically. And when I got here, we had a lot of potential, but we hadn't really capitalized on that yet. We've done so much over the last, 6 years or so. And really, there's so much going on that the best way to really encapsulate how far we've come is that I like to refer to our progress in ASHE Stars. So ASHE Stars, ASHE itself is the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. It's a kind of, club for sustainability for all the higher ed institutions in the country and even globally. And they have a rating system called STARS. So it's a sustainability tracking and rating system. The Chancellor's Office has actually adopted that as their standard for sustainability reporting for all 23 campuses. So it's a pretty universal measure of, how are you doing in your sustainability efforts, right? So the way that it works is that you as a university or higher ed institution, use the reporting tool in all these different categories to say, what are you doing for sustainability on your campus? So we hadn't gone through the process when I got here, but when we actually pulled together that first report to STARS, within our first year, we had achieved bronze. So in terms of the tiering system, you can be unrated if they don't think you have enough points to really, showcase you have sustainability efforts. From there, it goes like bronze, silver, gold, and the much very difficult to reach platinum level. So in terms of our progress, the fact that within the year we had achieved bronze was a pretty huge accomplishment. Follow that up within 2 years later, achieving silver. And then 3 years after that, achieving gold meant that we basically jumped from bronze to silver to gold within a 5-year span. Now, to appreciate how crazy fast that is in the grand scheme of things, we are the only CSU to have ever accomplished that. So out of all of our 22 sister campuses, no one has ever jumped from bronze to gold, much less done it that quickly on that kind of level of progression. I also like to brag about the fact that many of our sister campuses who have had sustainability departments and offices and units for many more decades than we have actually plateaued at silver or at bronze, or, you know, some of them are still unrated. So the fact that we as Cal State Dominguez Hills was able to make so much progress in such a short amount of time is really a testament to us as an institution. And on top of that, we're not willing to stop there, right? We're now on par with, most of the other sustainability leaders in the CSU. But we as an institution are actually committed to reaching platinum. In context, no CSU to date has reached platinum status yet. And there are campuses who've been working on this for 20 years. So this is a very high reach for everyone. But we think we have the potential to get there. And we're secretly also gunning, or maybe not so secretly gunning, to be the first CSU to achieve platinum. So we are definitely in that race, and we are committed as an institution to supporting our faculty, staff, and students and our operations to make sure we get there. And an important point to note about platinum and kind of like, how do you show you're really adopting sustainability as a core value? In order to reach platinum, and where we're missing points, if you will, is that it really rewards institutions who show that sustainability is a key part of the academic mission. So not just, your operations and going green and stuff like that. It actually has to be a true core value of your institution and what students are learning in the classroom, and how you're approaching your research, and how all departments of our campus are really, academic departments are really, integrating sustainability as a core value. Heather, if you want to click next. One of the key things is that, we've kind of done a pretty good job of sweeping the operational section. We, as an institution, have amazing potential when it comes to sustainability in our academics. Even just in the audience here, you can see how diverse we are as a campus in terms of the disciplines that are actively interested in sustainability, working on sustainability, the grassroots efforts of all these different faculty from all these different colleges. And that's something that we as an institution really want to harness and support and grow, especially in this kind of road to platinum that we're on, right? So one of the key tools or resources that we kind of identified early as like, we really need a center for sustainability to try to, bring these resources to the institution, support all our faculty and all our colleges on this journey. And that's what we've been able to launch effectively. So this is very new. So we were only formally approved, got the paperwork and everything on August 16th or something like that. So just, about a month ago here. But, we're ready to go. And so the Center for Sustainability and the Environment is an approved center. We are an institutional level academic center. So we don't belong to any one of the 6 colleges, but we support all of them. And we're designed to support the sustainability of integration in academics for the entire institution. And how we're structured too is very unique even within the CSU system. So we have basically 2 units now. So for those of you who have been around a while, you know that the Office of Sustainability exists. Even if you're new, you've probably received several emails from the Office of Sustainability for, the farmers market and different initiatives, things like that. And we continue to do that. So that office is under facility services. We provide your zero waste services, the farmers market, run the campus urban farm, all of that lovely fun stuff, right? And we will continue to do that. But under the umbrella of CSUDH sustainability efforts, we now have the center, following on the other side to support academics specifically. And I direct both. So the intention there is that as the campus sustainability officer, I'm receiving resources all the time for sustainability. So making sure that that gets back out through our 2 units under this one umbrella of making sure that we as an institution continue supporting sustainability moving forward. So hopefully that makes sense from a structural organizational standpoint in case, you're confused about office versus center, right? So, and for the center specifically, there are a few key services that we're already committed to providing to faculty here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. So we have our annual faculty learning community that we hold. We seem to be holding it every spring just because once you get into that schedule, it's kind of hard to break out of it. So we will be holding another FLC in spring around, obviously the topic of sustainability. Just to clarify, because I just learned this yesterday, that apparently some FLCs aren't paid. I'm just clarifying that this FLC is paid. So we do have stipends available for people participating in that FLC, with the idea of trying to integrate sustainability, as part of that course syllabus revision work that you all are doing. And if you're interested in that, the FD, the Faculty Development Center, we're partnering with them to launch the application process. So obviously still developing that, but hopefully in the next month or two, you should be seeing some announcements of like, okay, applications are formally open. So if that's something you're interested in, by all means, please feel free to apply. Or share with colleagues. We also have a commitment to running faculty-focused events just like this one to help to support sustainability in curriculum and research. If you have ideas for other types of workshops or things like that that you think would be helpful for faculty, we're very eager to hear those ideas. Programming is always being developed, so just let us know. We also want to serve as an interdisciplinary networking resource for both partnering with both other CSUDH faculty that might be in other disciplines or college, and connecting those folks with each other to help work on sustainability, research and projects and things like that. We also have external community organizations that we can bring in terms of trying to build that relationship with the campus community. We obviously, with that facilities connection, we're obviously very involved with all the campus infrastructure projects. So opportunities to partner on research or class projects, things like that. And as well as a big thing is grant opportunities, right? Since we get a lot of grant opportunities thrown our way around sustainability. So having that, that cohort of faculty that might be interested in taking the lead on doing research projects or supporting those grant opportunities, we want to be able to bring that to you all. So hopefully with all that, we continue to serve as a useful resource in your sustainability journey. So please feel free to tell your colleagues. We will continue to promote to all faculty about all the great things we're doing. And final note too, I forgot to mention this. Obviously, it's not just me. As I mentioned, I'm not faculty, which is why I have 3 faculty co-chairs to help me out. So we have Heather, who's obviously leading the workshop today, but she's our curriculum expert in terms of pursuing projects to help really infuse sustainability into our curriculum. Parveen Chatri in Earth Sciences, he's our research co-chair. So bringing in research opportunities around sustainability and building those tools. And Jenny Hall in IDS, who is our community engagement chair. So trying to build in that community engagement and how do we bring in partners and have that sustainability focus. So feel free to reach out to myself or any of my chairs, if you have ideas, opportunities, et cetera. So just wanted to make sure you knew about that opportunity with this new center that we've just launched. So Heather, next slide, I think is yours maybe. Yes, there you go. Oh, no, that's mine. So another thing to think about as we kind of talk about, why add sustainability to curriculum or why does our institution care about this, is that we do have a institutional campus strategic plan that you probably heard the president talk a lot about, right? It's called Going Far Together. In it, we as an institution have committed to certain mission, vision, and core values, of which sustainability is a part, right? So we obviously value DEIJ, sustainability is right there, all those great things, right? There's also pillars within the strategic plan where it kind of outlines what are our major goals as an institution, and also what are kind of the key activities that fall under those goals. So one of those goals specifically is, or one of those pillars, if you will, is the Thriving Students pillar, where they have goals kind of tied to, how do we enrich the student experience, right? In alignment with their institutional values. So one of the key things, and it's right there on the website, so in case you didn't know that this was going on, but the institution is committed to this kind of key activity goal of, by fall 2025, the campus community will revise its institutional learning outcomes for graduate and undergraduate students to align with the campus's mission, vision, and values, and develop a plan to assess those outcomes on a 5-year cycle. So already there's separate subcommittees and institutional effort on the academic side to revise the institutional learning outcomes. They're actually going through that process now, collecting feedback. Some of you probably gotten a lot more surveys than I have about, like that whole process and getting that consensus around that. So we're working with that subcommittee to make sure sustainability is also plugged in, since they're, DEIJ is obviously top of mind, but so is sustainability should be part of that conversation as well if you're trying to do this alignment with our values, right? So, just making sure that that's represented, just to make sure that everyone remembers to add sustainability when they're also talking about DEIJ and all these other revisions. we actually worked with Academic Senate to pass a resolution, just reminding the ILO subcommittee, please consider integrating environmental sustainability into the sustainability ILOs while you're doing all this work. And that resolution passed in March 2nd. So we formally reminded, the people working on that effort that, we're here, right? And one of the things that came out of that was this idea of like, okay, well, we're doing this revision process, and, how do we make sure sustainability is accessible, right? If we're suddenly saying, oh, you need to add sustainability as part of, we're doing this part of the ILOs and now everyone has to do it. How do we make that accessible to folks, especially for people who are from fields that are not really traditional to sustainability, right? It's not like, oh, you say that and you immediately think, oh yeah, it's like earth science or environmental science. It's like, there are other fields, right? So one of the tools that we'll be presenting in the workshop today, and we kind of mentioned, is that, the UN Sustainable Development Goals is a good framework for thinking about that, because they have such inclusive measures and goals underneath sustainability. But, and sustainability in general is very interdisciplinary. It's very wide reaching. So this workshop and kind of the conversations that we're having are just trying to remind folk about all the potential implications in terms of how it can, you can highlight that in your work, amplify your message, as Heather is going to go over, how you can connect that with DEIJ. So all of those good things. So that's why we're here as a resource to kind of help bring that message to all faculty in that regard. And yeah, I think that concludes this slide. And I think, Heather, the next one's yours, right?
Yep, back to me.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Ellie. As I'm a second year person, and I continue to learn about how impressive DH is in terms of our sustainability efforts. So thank you for that overview. Okay, so back to me. I'm going to talk for about 2 more slides, and then we'll take a break for some polls and some interaction. So since I don't know all of you, I don't know if I'm preaching to the choir here, but sustainability is a core part of quality education. And I offer you this quote just kind of as a grounding inspiration. A fundamental change is needed in the way that we think about education's role in global development, because it has a catalytic impact on the well-being of individuals and the future of our planet. Now more than ever, education has a responsibility to be in gear with 21st century challenges and aspirations, and foster values and skills that will lead to sustainable and inclusive growth and peacefully living together. So our positions here as educators in institution of higher education, we are really well positioned because our work cuts across education, research, outreach, community engagement. So having all these tentacles in different spaces here at DH, we have the opportunity to directly and indirectly impact sustainability. And we have an opportunity, and I would say an obligation, to help our students learn to think, act, and live within safe and just limits of our planet. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. So before I get into something concrete, I wanted to kind of give some big picture reflection opportunities. And so looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice, I wanted to think about kind of broadly, how are social and educational justice related to sustainability and environmental justice? And so to put it quite broadly and bluntly, social and educational justice are not possible unless we're also working towards environmental justice and sustainability. And so why is that? Social justice and sustainability intersect because our environmental challenges disproportionately impact marginalized individuals and communities. So, right, environmental challenges like pollution, climate change, biodiversity loss, you name it, right? They are disproportionately impacting low-income communities and communities of color. So environmental justice issues are social justice issues. We don't always frame it or approach solutions from that intersectional lens, though, but I offer you that perspective. I also offer you an example from my own field, mine and Doran's field. So we just had a record heat wave a few weeks back, right? And it closed schools. It was too dangerous for children to go to schools, but not all schools were closed. Disproportionately, schools serving low-income students and students of color were closed. If a student physically cannot go to school, that's going to increase the opportunity gap, their opportunity to learn. They literally could not go to school. Increasing the opportunity gap is going to increase the achievement gap. So an environmental issue is an educational equity issue for us. And we see this more and more across diverse fields. If we have a chance to talk, I would love to hear in Asian Pacific studies, in design, in health. I'd love to hear from all of you if we have a chance to talk a little bit. But I offer you just kind of this overlap to think about, right? As we think about diversity and inclusion, right? Are we including diverse experiences and stories with the natural and the built environment? As we think about equity and justice, are we prioritizing those that are impacted disproportionately by environmental injustices? And are we addressing systemic barriers in that equal protection from harm? And so thinking about this kind of slide, there we go. Thinking about this kind of framework broadly, we have 4 kind of reflection questions for you, and Ellie has created them. We did these in person yesterday, and we have them as polls today. So I've got 4 questions for you to consider. Ellie, do you have these as polls that come out all together or kind of one by one?
All together.
There's all 4 of them. So I invite you to read these 4 questions, and we'll take about 2 minutes. Don't rush through them. Think about your own courses you're teaching now, or courses you want to teach in the future. And I offer you to consider this intersectional nature of social and environmental justice with these 4 prompts.
Heather, for the Zoom recording, would you like to just read through them?
Yes, I was just about to say that. I was like, my teacher ability to deal with silence is not good on Zoom. So I'll read these 4. So first question to consider is thinking about your course and how it's aligned to Dominguez Hill's diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice goals. Is environmental justice part of your alignment with DEIJ? Second question is thinking about whether your course helps students explore the past and/or imagine and build the future. Are environmental issues part of the questions that you're engaging students in thinking about our world? Third question, thinking about what challenges your course prepares students to address. Are the environmental dimensions of that challenge included in your course? And then the 4th question, thinking about what voices are heard and stories are told through your course. Are diverse narratives about our changing climate included? I might now add, are diverse land ethics or perspective on human nature relations included in your class? So again, we offer these 4 questions as opportunities to think about, okay, actually the environmental dimensions of building a better future are not part of my course. Maybe that's a place I can add it. So I'm going to give another minute. Looks like 3 of you have answered these. Thank you. 5. Oh, all 5 of you have answered. Thank you all so much. And so those of you watching the recording, you're welcome to answer those on your own as well. So Ellie, do you want to close that? Or can I close that? Oh, I can close that. So we'll chat maybe about that a little bit later. Oh, I can share results. There we go. Okay, so thank you for that. So now the second kind of tool or perspective that I wanted to share is a little bit more concrete. And so this is the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So in 2015, the UN established a set of 17 common targets or goal with the hope of achieving these kind of broad and very ambitious goals by 2030 to really empower the whole world with competencies, knowledge, and values to live within kind of safe planetary boundaries. And I do want to just acknowledge, of course, that the UN and ideas about development, whether they be sustainable or not, do rest within political assumptions that we might not all share, that are not universally held. And so namely the principal one there is that many of these development goals rest on assumptions of mainstream economic thinking of capitalism. And so I just wanted to name that is likely not universally held. But I do think that the Sustainable Development Goals and the educational opportunities do have some opportunities for all of us, even from our diverse kind of standpoints on that. And so that's what I want to kind of offer today. So within the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that the UN has put forth, they have created a number of tools for educators, kind of K through 16 educators, in terms of learning outcomes associated with each of the 17 goals. And I'm going to share a PDF with you all when I take a breath. But basically, for each of the goals, they present cognitive, social, emotional, and behavioral learning outcomes. And they help us think about, okay, how can we bring these sustainable development goals to our students' attention? What are some of the theories that students can understand to help them learn these kind of concepts? And what are some of the practical applications? So direct suggestions around project and problem-based learning. And so I put up two kind of examples of what that looks like. I think about 10 of the 17 goals are a little bit more human focused. So gender equity would be one of those. And then about 7 are more kind of directly conservation or infrastructure, more stereotypical kind of environmental topics like climate action. And so let me send this to the folks that are in person. I'm going to just push send on that. So in the chat, you're all about to get a PDF, and those of you watching, we will share the link when we share the recording. But after I'm done talking, I invite you to go ahead and take a look at that. But what I offer all of us is just a simple suggestion that we're going to look through our syllabi, look through our course curriculum, and ask ourselves, can we identify already one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals in our course? If the answer is yes, let's think about how to amplify that. And if the answer is no, let's think about how to integrate one. And so I offer this kind of process for us, and I'm going to just talk through a couple of examples. So let's say you take 5 minutes, you're skimming your modules and your syllabus, and you already identify, okay, great, I am teaching something like income distribution, which is related to goal number 1 on ending poverty. So, right, maybe I might want to clarify for my students that climate change is a cause of poverty and is exacerbating poverty locally and globally. Or maybe I might want to amplify, kind of go a little bit deeper, that wealth inequity is related to luxury emissions, whereas there's luxury and subsistence emissions of greenhouse gases. And maybe I might want to complicate that not all greenhouse gas emissions are, well, they're created equal once they get into the atmosphere. But in terms of our actions and our agencies on the ground, it's a little bit different. So maybe I already have that in my class, and now I want to clarify and amplify that language to my students. Or let's say after you look through your syllabus, you say, no, I don't really have any of these. I have 3 6 strategies for how you might want to look on opportunities to integrate. So one might be matching the goals of your discipline or your department to a sustainable development goal. So maybe your discipline or department is related to social issues impacting girls and women around the world. So that would be related to Sustainable Development Goal 5 on gender equity. And so maybe you might see opportunities to integrate one of the learning outcomes around the cultural roles of women and girls around the world as caretakers of natural spaces. Or maybe you might want to integrate case studies about female leaders in natural disaster relief and all kinds of incidences where women are really spearheading responses, sustainable and equitable responses. Another option would be to consider downstream or upstream processes of your course, right? Your course might be a snapshot, but you could look at things that might come before or after in a sequence of learning. So maybe you teach habitat loss, right? There's forestry practices that come before that. And after that, there might be actions around building wildlife gardens. So, right, all of those are related to learning outcomes in the sustainable agriculture learning sustainable development goal. And so this is just a suggestion for a couple of pathways. And so Ellie, I think we decided that we were going to give a couple of announcements in the next slide and then pause the recording so that folks here on Zoom can either do it on their own or go do something else right now and do this later.
And I
So
actually, not to
go
spring
ahead.
this on you, but I was thinking since we have the advantage of screen share, especially for the Zoom audience, if we want to maybe close out this and actually open the PDF you sent and then just show an example of how to read it in terms of like, oh, okay, this is how you can like where the learning objectives are and things like that. Do you think
Sure.
you'd be able to maybe share that and then we can walk through that real quickly just in case it's like, oh, what PDF and how do I read this, right? And
Yeah.
then that way everyone can use that, know how to use that
Good
tool.
suggestion. Let me share my screen with a new doc. Okay, great. Thanks, Ellie. So this is what it looks like, Education for Sustainable Development and Learning Objectives. And so I hope my scrolling doesn't make everybody dizzy. But the first couple of pages give introduction on kind of that intersectional nature of sustainability and educational equity and the history of the goals. Actually, I can just click down through pages. It'll make us maybe less dizzy. So several kind of introduction pages. But the pages that I'm really focusing on for this activity start at the learning objectives for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. So it gives us a broad introduction here, and then it goes goal by goal. So, right, with goal number 1, no poverty, we get a set of cognitive learning objectives, 5 of them, social emotional learning objectives, another 5, and behavioral learning objectives. So goals for our students. And then we get suggestions for topics and kind of methods and approaches. They don't get into enough detail, I would say, to be kind of pedagogical approaches or a flushed out activity, but that is what we hope to build on through the resources we'll offer faculty in the spring. And so again, it goes through all 17, Zero Hunger, with again the same 3. So these are the resources that I offer. So my last suggestion there for if you really don't see connections to your course is take 5-10 minutes and skim through these. And the language of the learning objectives I find to be very broad in many cases and very accessible. And so there might be some tangents that jump out at you or some connections or some overlap. And so the broadness of these goals, even the ones that we wouldn't stereotypically consider to be environmentally related, they give you that invitation and that opportunity. Okay, was that your suggestion? Is that what you were thinking, Ellie?
Yeah, and if it's not too much trouble to briefly jump back to the last slide, I can talk about the opportunities for the recognition.
Not too much trouble at all. And I think I saw a hand, so we'll take questions in just 1 second after this last one.
Yeah, I'll just go over this, stop the recording, and then we can open up to open discussion. So in terms of anyone who's watching the recording after the fact, as well as the people logged in right now. So if you do end up doing integrating sustainability activities or themes into your syllabi as a result of this workshop, or just over the course of the semester, or whenever you plan to do it, if you can turn in a revised and highlight syllabus showing like, hey, this is how I integrated sustainability into my course. I can actually document your participation via a letter from my office, actually recognizing that activity. You can, attach it to your RTP file or wherever you want to use it. It's a commendation letter from us, just recognizing that this is something that we as an institution want to see. It supports your continuous learning. One of the advantages of knowing that if I have faculty actually contacting me to let me know, hey, my course is now integrating sustainability themes, our activities into it. We do a campus course inventory to support our ASHE STARS reporting. So we'll actually be doing one this year. No, so if nobody says anything, by default, my office has to default to whatever's listed in the course catalog, which of course you probably all realize that the descriptions are kind of vague, may not incorporate everything that's going on. So that's the only guidance we have unless faculty are actively telling us, hey, disregard what it says on the course description. This is what's actually happening in the class. And that way I'm able to actually record that and show that to ASHE STARS via that public course inventory to say, these are all the sustainability things that are going on in our courses at this university. And that assists us in terms of our performance as an institution to recognize that effort. So that's the activity. So I highly encourage you all, if you do this work, please email me. My contact information is obviously going to be part of the follow-up as we email you these resources. And, we want to make sure we're recognizing those efforts. And then Heather, did you want to cover the last paragraph on future resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So The center is brand new. We are figuring out what faculty want, need, desire, hope for. And so we're going to tailor what we offer through the rest of the year, through the spring, based on kind of what we hear and learn from you all. So stay tuned, TBD, but some ideas are moving from today into next step, right? What do pedagogical innovations look like? What is it? What do project-based learning opportunities look like? How do we deal with, okay, I'm one of many instructors teaching this class and not everybody's on board. How do we communicate this to our students? So that is the plan for the spring, but the details will be fleshed out as we figure out what everybody is interested in. Yeah, I think those were the big points.
Yeah. And with that, I'll go ahead and conclude the recording and open it up to discussion. So we will be posting this recording to my website as well. So it'll be a continued resource for anyone who wants to catch up on the material. So thank you.